Welcome to episode 103 of Rubbish Talk with me, Alasdair Meldrum.
And me, Victoria Taylor.
Welcome, Victoria. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Victoria, you are Chief Executive Officer for Probe Industries Limited. So, can you tell listeners a little bit about yourself and Probe Industries, please?
Yeah, of course. So Probe Industries Limited, we are a family business and we've been going for 30 years now, based in Northumberland in the UK, and we specialise in odour and dust control, predominantly in the waste and water sectors.
Okay. And how did you start? Have you always been in the family business, or were you?
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny because my dad started it originally with his misting system technology, the atomization that he designed as a kind of alternative to the nozzle systems that were out there at the time. And he really didn't want me in the business initially because he wanted me to go off and make my own way in the world and be the first Rutherford to go to university. And I was very academic, and I think he wanted that kind of life for me. But it was funny because at the time, and this is going back 20 odd years now. I'm scared to say the number. But they needed someone in the office temporarily, and I was due to go to university in September. And I just thought I'd go in and help out a little bit and see, if I could lend a helping hand at the time. And I remember the sales manager at the time, I think I'd been there a few months, and the sales manager at the time, he then went to Dad and said, "You're crazy if you let this girl go to university. Like she was born for this." So I think almost a little bit begrudgingly at first, he said, "Okay, all right. So if you want to be in the business, then you need to kind of prove yourself a little bit." So I was 18, 19 at the time. And right in the deep end, I had to go straight out on the road, visiting waste sites. It was really quite scary at the time, you can imagine, as a young girl. A very sort of unusual guest on a waste site at the time, a young blonde girl. So it was interesting, and it really was the deep end. But I just loved it. I loved the challenge. I loved every day was different, getting out on the road, meeting people, learning about the industry. And I think the great thing about the waste industry as well is everybody's so willing to share. Everybody's really willing to teach, and I love to learn. So yeah, it was a great time for me. And then it went from there really, and I worked my way up. I think I did just about every job in the business by the end, other than an engineer. Yeah, and eventually took it over in 2011 after I eventually did go back and do my MBA. So I did eventually manage to go back to university, so I ticked both boxes. And then after that, Dad said, "Okay, here's the keys to the castle." So that was in 2011 now.
There you
Yeah,
go.
and here we
That
are.
was that was going to be two of my questions. Did you finally go back to university? And
I
is your
did,
dad
yeah.
genuinely out of the business, or is he still involved,
So
or does he
he's
still?
been semi-retired for a long time, but as is always the way with founders and entrepreneurs, we love having him in. He loves being in. He does all the stuff that he loves to do. So he's great on the R&D technical side, the engineering, loves to get involved in a project. So he does all that side of things and dips his toe in occasionally. So yeah, he's still around. He's still around and loving it. And now my son works there too as well. So we've now got 3 generations of us in the business. So yeah, it's good fun. But when I went back to university, it wasn't necessarily for the qualifications, so to speak. It was more for the networks, I guess, and that exposure, because that is one thing about working in, a small family business from being quite young. You need to be able to get out there and experience life a little bit, and other businesses and meet other, owners and managers and entrepreneurs and things. And it was great getting out into the Northeast business scene. And really that led to a lot of the global growth as well, because I got to do a lot of traveling with the university and did business for Probe Industries at the time as well. So yeah, it had the desired effect.
Good. So it's just to tell us a little more about the the products you do then, obviously it's to do with odour, but
Yeah.
what are the main, without giving us a whole,
Yeah,
whole
of course.
sales
I'll
pitch?
keep it brief. I'll keep it brief. I mean, for us, really, we specialize. We don't. There's the best way to deal with odors generally is to cover, extract. Put through some kind of large odor abatement system. We specialize in that very niche area where that's not possible or not cost effective to do, and that tends to be a lot within the waste management market. It's not possible to cover and extract in certain areas, and you really need to have a product that you can apply in those areas through some kind of misting system or injection system, depending on the situation, that actually destroys the odours. So we have a patented technology that we designed that actually changes the molecular structure of odours, and it works across the spectrum of odours. So it works, I mean, you'll know on waste sites you get all manner of odours on a waste site, and it varies from day to day. You never know what you're going to get. And so it can be sulfur based, it can be nitrogen based. You'll all know hydrogen sulfide, ammonium, mercaptans, amines. So that's what we specialize in. We get rid of those compounds, and then we've just launched a range recently which also has well-being effects attached to it as well. So mood enhancement and things like that. So the actual technology itself is fragrance free. It doesn't need a fragrance, but we can add those around with the mood enhancement as well. So that's it in a nutshell. Without getting into too much detail.
Well, I know.
I could bore you all with the science, but I'll refrain.
It brings back memories, because I remember sometimes we had issues when I used to run landfill sites. We had odour issues, and it'd be like you'd bring in a deodorizing unit basically, and all you were doing was pumping out a smell that was
perfumed water, essentially. A lot of
covering the other smell, and it wasn't really addressing the issue. But I always remember vividly that one of the landfill sites we used to get, one particular time we had probably it was a landfill gas hydrogen sulfide issue, because we couldn't extract from an area quick enough, and there was an area that was something like 8 or 9 miles away as the crow flew, and we were getting complaints, and they were actually justifiable complaints for that area. And it's amazing how far the odour travels, and it's so difficult to pin down, because you get the complaint, you go out, there's no smell, but then you know the next day you've got a complaint, and so on, and round the circle you go.
And it's very difficult on a landfill site. Coverage is very difficult, because ideally you want to cover at source. So, wherever those odours are being generated, you want to try and cover the source before it even has a chance to get to the boundary, And, odours can be detected at very, very low levels. They can be very, very troublesome. And it is tricky in that situation. I think, in landfill sites, as long as usually it's wherever there's any movement of waste, any dumping of waste, that's generally where the majority of the odour is released, and trying to get that coverage and having somebody, take responsibility for that, making sure that area is covered, is really, really tricky in practice. Yeah, it's a tough one, a landfill site.
Yeah, I'm involved with some work at the moment. There's a bit of a landfill forum has come together, and one of the things they're saying is we're not doing enough research now, because we've totally changed the waste that's going into landfill, because we're shredding so much more. It's fines that are going in. It's all like smaller particles, and although in theory it's the same waste type still going in, we've changed the composition of it, so it's breaking down in a different way than it used to, and we're not adjusting to that, because we're not doing enough research in that area. So
yeah. And there's always room for more research, right? Always. We've actually got an innovation coming up later this year, which I can't say too much about, but it is around being able to have a very smart system that can detect odours and move to the area of odour and quickly deal with the odour and move on, and have that constant, sensing odour technology, smart technology, which I think, especially for the likes of landfill sites and, big lagoons and things like that, where it's very difficult to pinpoint the source, will be a real step forward, definitely.
How are you physically doing that? Because I know previously the actual measuring of odour is really difficult. It's really
really, really difficult. Yeah,
I always think when you're sending bags to a lab for people to sniff, it's like you do wonder about the we've got all this technology out there, and that's how we're still
I
checking
know. I mean, at
odor
the end of the
levels.
day, the most sensitive sensor is still the human nose. It
Yeah,
really is, but obviously we have electronic nose technology now, we can incorporate that, and we are getting smarter and they are getting more sensitive. And, you can integrate with, the land and where you expect the odor hotspots to be, and, all that sort of stuff. So it is getting a lot cleverer and a lot smarter, but, we've still got a way to go for sure.
yeah, yeah. And out of interest, how much how big a percentage do you put into R&D? Is it a big part of the business, or is
We
it
are
how do
yeah,
you?
we do invest quite heavily in R&D. It's our strongest point, I would say. We are definitely R&D led. I would say we're R&D
Yeah,
led. We have our scientists, we have our engineering teams, and we have specialists that have been in this very niche industry for a long, long time, which is quite hard to come by because it is very, very niche. We've been doing it for 30 years and we've grown those networks, and we do like to innovate as well. We
hmm
enjoy it, and I think if you enjoy something and you're passionate about it, you are good
yeah,
at it naturally, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you do that generally in house, or do you got
We do a
collaborations with
bit of both.
universities and so on? And
Yeah, we do a bit of both. It depends on the project. We have access to our own laboratories, so we can do a lot in-house. We have, some, outsourced occasionally if we need very specialist areas in certain things, depending on the project. But a lot of it is in-house, yeah. We do a lot with a small team.
good, good. So going back to your first step into the industry, how did you, as a young girl in the industry, how did you manage to prove yourself and
Yeah, I think that was the tricky bit. But I think because you do have to earn that respect, you do have to build that rapport. And I think just being honest, being open, open to learn and genuinely enjoying it. And I did find, I mean, obviously I had the occasional experience where it wasn't so pleasant, but I would say on the balance of it, it was a really positive experience. Everybody was, very willing to help and, show me around the sites and teach me about how things worked. And I just really enjoyed it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And looking back, any highlight periods where you think, oh goodness sake, I'd love to be back there just doing that particular
Oh
bit,
God,
or
loads. I mean, yeah, loads. I mean, I think sometimes going from a bit of a low to a high was quite there is one example I can give you actually, and I think it was just after the crash. I don't know if it was 2008 or 2010.
2008 was the crash,
Yeah,
the
but
big crash. Yeah,
it hit us a little bit later, I think. And I think it was around 2010. But anyway, business had been tough. It's hard running a business. You make sure the staff are paid first, and that you have that pressure. Gosh, can I pay my mortgage this month, kind of thing. And I remember we'd gone through a bit of a time, and I was going to this particular site, and it was a big job for us. It was a really good one, and I thought if we nail this, we've got this. It's exciting, but we need to get this deal, and then we'll survive another day and it'll be fabulous. And we went to this site and I went to this big meeting. It was quite intimidating at the time because there was so many people around the table, all these men in the industry. And, I thought, oh gosh, they're going to give me the hard negotiation here. And we started chatting and they said, well, we love it. We love the proposal. We love what you've got, but we've got an issue with the budget. And I thought, oh gosh, here we go. Here comes the negotiation. All right. And they said, we've got more to spend. I nearly fell off my chair. I said, what now? And they said, oh no, we've got a budget and we need to spend it. Can you put your proposal up? And I thought, my goodness, like I don't think I've ever since come across that situation again. But that was quite a moment, and I thought, well, of course we can, but we didn't just put the price up. We
yeah.
did a lot more
We
for
need
them.
something for you. Yeah,
We did more for them, and that is they're one of our long-standing customers. I won't mention who the site is, obviously,
yeah,
but they've been very loyal customers of ours for many, many years. And yeah, that was definitely a highlight, I think.
yeah, yeah.
It's not very often you get that, is it?
No, not at all, not at all, not
We've
at
got
all.
money to spend, take it off us.
And what
Oh.
and what about when you did something that maybe never went quite to plan? How did you sort of deal with that, or did
Um,
it end
Well,
up
do you
okay in the
know,
end?
I think moving on from that story, there was a few years where we just went from strength to strength after that. Things were just going our way. It was amazing. We built a really good brand in the industry. We had fantastic customers, and we'd started dabbling in the global markets. Now, global markets and dealing internationally, it can be quite scary at first because it's a whole new bag. You know, you've got a lot to learn. You need to have the people around you to support you, and you know, you've got to be careful in certain areas. And I remember we'd got to a stage where we got, you know, great reserves built up and we were doing really well, and then we got scammed, and it was
Right.
really, really rough. Yeah, and it was basically, it was an international client, and they'd placed an order for quite a large equipment order, which was obviously quite high value. Then the way they did it was very clever. It looked as if it'd gone in the bank, but I think it was a check that they presented. Very clever how they did it. And the girl that was running the bank account at the time at Probe Industries hadn't noticed that it wasn't a cleared,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then they asked for a refund for half. They wanted to reduce their order by half, and she processed the refund, and it was a lot. It was a lot. We never got it back. We never got it back. So we had to start rebuilding again. You know, you dust yourself off and you think, okay, lesson learned, you know, and sometimes you just think, my goodness, you know, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? But you can't think like that, can you? You've got to just
No.
learn and move on.
There is a sort of government, is that still in place? There's a sort of government guarantee scheme. If you're doing overseas work, you
Now
can
there is,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
guarantee
And it
that
is,
this,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you can get sort of almost like credit insurance kind of
yeah,
thing, where they cover, you know, I think it's 90 or 95%, depends, and it depends on the country as well. But yeah, there's great schemes in place now.
yeah,
But again, you know, you get wiser. You know, we're a lot wiser to it. We've been doing it a long time now.
yeah,
We know what to look for. You know, you learn from these mistakes, don't you? Sometimes they're quite tricky, but you learn from them. Otherwise,
yeah.
you're in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of just, I've got a few questions here. I think in terms of the actual business, do you see yourself as, if you like, equipment suppliers, or do you equipment suppliers that do the design work, or how does the business operate, say, in the
For
UK?
us, it's more the chemistry. We do supply the equipment, absolutely. We the probe atomizer was our you know, flagship product when we launched, a much more water efficient way of, you know, generating a mist. But for us, it's in the chemistry. It's about the chemistry. So we
Yeah,
now have our global networks, and our exports are predominantly the chemical. It's non-hazardous, and it's easy to ship around the world, and it does the job, you know, and it's patented, so that makes it a lot easier to do deals. It's now been licensed in other markets, you know, as well, for use in hospitals and care homes, and you know, yeah, public toilets and things, you know, commercial cleaning. So it's really, that's where our expertise lie, I would say, and that's where the global growth for us is definitely.
yeah, yeah. And how do you see that going forward? Is the global side going to take over the UK side? Is that?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, the UK's a very small market in comparison to the rest of the world, and I think when you are such a niche business, it absolutely does well to go global. And we have some amazing partnerships already in Hong Kong. We've got a licensee in America who's already manufacturing over there. We've got Australia, you know, Europe. We've got amazing links already, and we're building more. We've just got it in the Middle East. And I think now for us, it's about being more proactive and strategic in terms of the global expansion, because up to now it's been a lot more reactive. You know, people will find us, they'll need something, and we'll
And
start
you've
developing that
dealt with them?
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah. But I mean, it's tricky because it does take a lot of, you know, research hours. You've got to research the markets. You've got to be sure before you kind of commit too much investment. So it is trickier. But having said that, when you're more strategic about it, you do build much better, longer lasting partnerships, and, you know, much more in line with your strategy as a business. So that's where my focus is now.
And how much are you having to go out to these markets, or are you doing it all remote, or
So
are you?
to be honest, because I mean, technology is amazing now,
Oh,
isn't it?
yeah,
Because you can have virtual meetings from
yeah,
anywhere in the world, and I mean, I spend a lot of my time on Teams calls, you know, from all around the world, you know, from morning till night, because you've got Singapore, you know, at one end of the spectrum, and then, you know, America and Canada, and so yeah, that really, really helps. But I would say I probably travel maybe every other month, or, you know, once a quarter if I can get away with it. You know, I have a little girl at home, so I try not to travel too much. But I think if you are committed and you want to build those relationships, you have to get boots on the ground. You have to be there, you know, occasionally at the very least. And some markets are different to others. So for example, the Middle East is very hands-on. They like to see you, you know, they like to see your face. They like to build build that relationship. It's all about relationships. Whereas Europe, they can quite easily jump on a Teams call.
Hmm.
It just doesn't feel like you need to visit them as much. I still do, but certainly not as much. So it really depends on the market as well.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. That's really good. That's really good. Coming back to the UK, where do you think the challenge? Well, I suppose what are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And supplementary question to that: how much has it changed since you first came into the sector?
Yeah, it has changed. It's changed a lot. I think it's definitely gone in the right direction, and I think for me, I mean, this is obviously I'm a woman, so it's really lovely to see more women in the industry as well. That has changed hugely since I've been going, since 20 odd years ago. I was just at an event recently, Women in Recycling. There was an entire room full of absolute trailblazers in recycling. It was wonderful. And there really is that sort of supportive, nurturing environment, which is great. Technology's come on so much, and now with AI, and being able to see things on AI so that you can get better waste sorting and things. And, we're going the right way. We're going the right way with recycling, diverting from landfill. So I think, yeah, the UK market is very advanced in the waste sector in comparison to a lot of other countries that I visit.
Hmm.
So I think it's definitely we are doing the right things. We are on a great journey. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. I know that, but yeah, we are definitely on the right path. I think, and we need to be proud of what we achieve here in the UK in comparison to a lot of other places. So, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think there are certain parts of the world that their waste management system is barely functioning.
It's quite
If we're
surprising.
being really honest about it, it's
Yeah, yeah.
poor,
The
very poor.
infrastructure and, not creating energy from waste so much, there's so much opportunity out there, but yeah, it's surprising. It's surprising once you start getting out there and seeing all the different countries and how they operate. I mean, it's fascinating, but it does make you proud of what we do here in the UK, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What about competition? Who's your competitor? You probably don't want to name them, but is it
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, we do have a few, but we're very niche, so we don't have a huge amount of competition. There's a couple of other companies doing misting systems and odour, elimination and things like that. Obviously, I'm going to say this: our product is unique, but I mean, it is genuinely unique. It's patented, but there's enough business out there for all of us. I think with
Mm,
it being quite a niche area, we can all do what we need to do in the space, and like I say. The global markets as well for us is a really interesting space. And again, globally, not a massive amount. In different countries, obviously it depends, and it depends how advanced that country is in terms of its regulations as well. Because obviously, odor and emissions and things like that, it's all driven generally by regulations and making sure that there's emissions control in place. And often you don't know until you speak to people in that country individually how heavily that's actually being enforced, because it might
mm,
be desk research can only get you so far, right? You need to speak to people in the industry and get firsthand from them, whether there is an issue there. But yeah, I've been surprised by the amount of companies and in countries that do need us, because there
yeah,
is, like I say, this niche space, and like you said before, it's very difficult in waste to control the odors. It's very
yeah.
tricky.
And how much? Obviously, a lot of the work initially was on odor control and it's an environmental issue, if you like. What about the
Yeah,
health and safety side? What about the dust control and
yeah,
emissions for
exactly.
operators? Is that becoming a bigger thing now?
Yeah, it's always been a thing for sure, and dust suppression for us is where we focus. We've just recently started getting into dust extraction. That's not our specialism, but we're launching with that now. But dust suppression obviously has always been a thing, and making sure that bioaerosols as well. It's always a thing, and it's like anything, isn't it? It's looking at the process, it's looking at the building, it's looking at the airflow, looking at how you can manage all of the things that you can manage before you then get to systems as well. So it's kind of taking that holistic approach.
Yeah. The whole bioaerosol thing, that I'm not convinced we're doing enough work for operator safety in terms
Yeah,
of
yeah.
bioaerosols, because I think it's one of these areas we'll look back in 10 years and think, we should have been doing a bit more here.
Absolutely, and you can always do more, can't you? You can absolutely always do more, but it's tricky. It's one of those things, what it's this reasonably practicable, isn't it? What can you
Yeah.
do that's reasonable? But yeah, it is. It's tricky, and these, people are working in environments that aren't the best environments in the world, and like we've got
Mm.
stats, with our new innovation that we did around well-being and neuroscience. We looked at the science of smell specifically, but it's not just about smell. It's about the entire environment, the whole environment, and staff turnaround and sick days, and all this kind of stuff. And it's real. It's real. You go to these sites, and often you get used to working in those environments. And a lot of our customers, they'll say to me, "Oh, Vic, I get used to it. It's fine. I get used to it." But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's still not affecting you. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely an issue.
Have you managed to actually prove a benefit to the workers then by
Well, we are
use it?
literally just
Is that what
launching
you're
now.
trying to do?
Yeah, we're just launching. We've started from January, just initially sending out the samples, getting spreading the word. We're doing a
Hmm.
very soft launch. We're going to
Yeah.
our customers first, and then hopefully someone will agree to allow us to do a pilot. Or it's difficult because in our industry as well, it's obviously very politically charged. So a lot of our customers don't like to put their names to things, or don't like their site to be in press releases and things like that. But I mean, the science is there. The science is already proven. There's decades of neuroscience research, and the mood enhancement technology that we're using is proven and patented and everything. We've worked with leading specialists in that field, so that's all proven. But what we need to get some customers to confirm that in field and say, yeah, this is definitely making a difference. But to be honest, having this on anyway, even without the mood enhancement, the last time I went to one of my sites in Manchester, the site manager there actually said to me, "Do you know what it is, Vic? If I don't have that kit on for 10 minutes before the lads go in, they're like bears with sore heads all day." And I was like, "Oh, please let me quote you on that. Can I please use that?" So he let me, bless him. I could use it. But yeah, he said, you need to improve the environment before they even go in the morning. Otherwise, it's just, yeah, it's not nice. Yeah.
It's so important. And as you say, you go to some sites and you just think, for goodness sake, can you imagine turning up
Yeah.
here every day, to
Yeah.
work in this environment? And as you know yourself, the HSE's big focus is on health at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that it's not on safety; it's that we need to focus on health as well. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Health and well-being and all that. Yeah. And it's all part of one big picture, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. So what's your big plans for the future then? What's the big
I think definitely just carrying on with this global expansion. I think we've got some really interesting stuff going on in the US and Canada at the moment. So that's proven to be a great growth opportunity. I'm over there in August. We've got a speaking slot in Fort Lauderdale at one of the big waste and water shows. So that should be great. And obviously the Middle East. I mean, I know that there's currently everything's on hold at the moment, but when that reopens, and hopefully it won't be too long, but we shall see. We've got great partnerships set up in Dubai and in Saudi. And Saudi Water Authority have put us on their incubation program. They're really, really keen on getting this technology over there. And then around Europe, we are still making connections and growing quite steadily in Europe as well. So I would say that's the big exciting bit for me. That global expansion piece, definitely.
Yeah. And how do you manage how do you grow the team? How big a challenge is that?
Well, this is the challenge. You've hit the nail on the head there, because when you're scaling, it's tricky, because you need the resources before you've got the revenue, but then to get the revenue, you need the resources. So it is a chicken and egg scenario, and it is tricky and it is risky. The way I'm currently getting around that at the moment is I'm using quite a lot of fractional expertise, so fractional HR, fractional marketing, until we get to the level where we can bring those in house. So it's a temporary bridge, if you like, to get us over that scaling, to get us through the scaling journey until we get to that next level where we can afford the full time. But we will be recruiting very, very soon. We will be in business development and in global business strategy, definitely. We need someone else in the office again soon, so we are steadily growing, but it's you've got to be careful not to take off, more than you can handle. You have to be careful. It's steady. You've got to be managing your risks, but also making sure you make the most of your opportunities.
Hmm.
It's a balancing act.
which
always.
is it always is. All
It is.
business is.
It is, and it's the team building as well, and making sure that the team are all on board and they're all on the journey with you, and everybody's excited about it. And it's you've got to keep that momentum going, but not stretch things too far. Yeah,
It's exciting. That's exciting.
it
So,
is exciting.
coming back to the UK, if you had a magic wand to do something in the big bad world of waste management, what would you like to see it used for?
I mean, just specific to Probe Industries or in general?
You can do both if you wish. So
I think for
I would
me,
imagine your Probe Industries one's to sell more kit to people. So
well, yeah, I mean, obviously that would be wonderful.
yeah,
I think for me, it's about regulations. I think I had my eyes were opened recently when I went to that. Obviously, I'm not running a waste site yet. A lot of my
yes,
customers are, but
yeah.
I'm not in the thick of it. And it was just a real eye opener. Speaking to all these women, running these sites, the amount of regulations that I know we need them, but they are intense. And, especially if you've got the smaller companies, not the likes of the bigger giants who've got their own internal resources, but the smaller waste handlers, and it's hard for them to keep abreast of everything. And I think for me, there was a woman from the Environment Agency who came and did an amazing talk. And she really was there for a full 2 hours, really just and it got quite heated at times,
I
but
can imagine.
really, yeah, but really opened it and was really trying to support and really helping, because everybody in that room wants to do the right thing. They want to make sure that they're compliant. They want to do the right thing, but there's so many hoops to jump through. And I think my magic wand would be that there would be more resources so that the Environment Agency or other agencies could take more of a supportive, consultative approach as well. And it can be kind of, because it was just lovely to see. And the women in the audience were kind of saying, this is the first time we've had this
Mm,
feedback from someone in the Environment Agency to help us, genuinely help us. But it's hard, obviously, and I understand it's hard for the Environment Agency because they're there to enforce and they've got rules and they're not allowed to act as, consultants and things. So I suppose my magic wand would be in that regard. Um, trying to tidy up the regulations a little bit as well, because they're all over the place and it is a bit of a minefield.
mm,
So to be able to do what we need to do in a more supportive environment would be great. And obviously that also covers odors and emissions and
yeah.
things like that. It would be great for us to have more of a a collaborative approach, with the agencies and things. Where are the key issues? Where can we be of service? What kind of, because it gives you ideas for new innovations as well.
Mm,
Be honest about the problems in the industry and what's going on and where the issues are, then that gives us more food for thought for innovation. And
yeah.
it's that collaboration, I would say, would be my magic wand.
Yeah, and I think most of the waste industry would welcome that as well. That
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
I know from experience. I did quite a bit of work with a in-vessel composting site numerous years ago, and they were getting complaints about odour, but I'm fairly convinced they were not justifiable complaints. But that site went through absolute hell, and they had to put
oh
in
yeah,
all sorts of extraction, running pumps, blowers, all the rest. And
mm,
if you actually took into account the energy cost to eliminate the odours for 5 times a year when people would actually smell it, you think,
yeah,
are
it's
we
a lot.
are we actually really doing the right thing, or do we need to say that some waste management activities will create an odour?
Yeah,
Is an offensive odour? No. Is it causing an impact on immunity? Probably no.
it's tricky, isn't it?
How far do we go? And it's really hard, especially when as we talked earlier. How do you measure it? How do you quantify it? All that sort of stuff.
It's
It's a
so
it's a
difficult.
really challenging area. But yeah,
Hmm.
I think the big frustration in the waste sector at the moment is the waste crime issue. That
Gosh,
it
wow. Yeah.
appears that that's not being given the attention it deserves, whereas the smaller operators are getting their knuckles wrapped for sort of
Absolutely.
minor misdemeanors, and I know there's a lot of sort of concern in the sector about that.
Massive concern. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard
Yeah,
a lot of conversations around that for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And again, it's resources, isn't it? It all comes down to resources and focus and, where the focus goes. And yeah, it's like I say, that collaboration needs to be there, doesn't it? And that it's a two-way street, really. We can't improve things if we're not all talking about it and hitting those issues head on, really.
yeah. How often, just going back to, just thought of something else, so going back to your, so if you have a customer phones you up, they've got a compliance issue, they've got an odour issue. Generally, how do you approach that? Would you send somebody to site, or would you get the details, or just
Yeah, I
what's
mean,
the normal?
usually we can do a lot over the phone or virtually at first. And then, if it gets to the stage where, because generally, if we can ask them loads of questions about the site, and get photos of the site, how it's laid out and stuff, because we obviously have to do that internationally as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear usually where and how we can
Mm-hmm.
help. But yeah, often we'll send, an engineer pre-visit to make sure that everything's, working as it should, and what we've recommended actually works in practice. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, you can tell a lot, just from the site diagrams and just talking to the site manager. What are the issues? Where are the
Mm-hmm.
complaints? What have you got an order management plan? What's your relationship like with the agency? And all this kind of stuff. You get all that. A lot of that can get virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's often, it's always, and it's better for the sites to do that as well. The sites are busy as well. So the more efficient you can be, the better, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've chatted quite a bit about your career, Victoria. Any advice for young people coming into the sector? What do they need to do, or where do they need to go?
Well, obviously the CIWM do a lot, don't they, with training and whatnot. But I think, there's networking, getting out there, talking to people. That's always going to be your biggest strength, isn't it? Just getting out there and talking to people, and not being afraid to ask the questions, and doing your research. But it's an exciting industry to be in. And it's not just the waste industry. It's science industries in general. STEM and all that. Yeah, there's so much opportunity. And the waste industry and the way it's going, there's a lot of amazing careers that you wouldn't necessarily think of being in waste, but actually are really amazing. And this was conversations I was having with the women in recycling. They were saying exactly the same thing. There's so many roles and so many opportunities and so many different disciplines. Let's make it more attractive, the sector. Let's make it sexier. It really it can be, because it can be really, really exciting depending on what you enjoy and what your discipline is. Mhm.
That's a big challenge. How do we make it more attractive?
I
How
think
do
we
how?
just need to talk. Education is just about getting out there, doing things like this. Getting out there, talking about it, educating. I'll do talks in schools and things as well. And I think just more people need to know about the fact that this industry is, it's growing, it's booming, it's exciting. It's a good place to be. It's not just all about the horrible smells. I mean, it is for me, I
It's a
guess,
it's a little bit about that, isn't it?
but I still find it exciting. I'm a nerd.
No, I know. Vicky Hughes, she's going to be
Oh
president
yeah,
this
it's
year,
great. Yeah.
CRWM, and that's her big focus for the next year. That career attractiveness.
Yes, we
How
were chatting about that actually. Yeah, 'cause so she's got her inauguration in June.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, she's exactly of the same opinion. And there was a lady from FCC. She said exactly the same thing on the stage at the conference as well. Like, let's shout from the rooftops about this industry and
Yeah,
how amazing it is, and how many opportunities there are for young people. And offering more apprenticeships and things like that as well.
yeah,
Apprenticeships are absolutely wonderful for young people, especially if you're not particularly academically minded.
yeah.
And both my sons, I've got a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old, and they both absolutely flourished in an apprenticeship. You
Right.
know, not academic at all,
Mm-hmm.
started their apprenticeship, and they walk taller, the pair of them. We need to offer those opportunities for young people.
Yeah. No, I think that's good advice. That's good advice
Hmm.
for people.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, well that's me. I think I've exhausted my list of questions. So, uh,
Good
thank you,
stuff.
thank you very much.
No problem. No, it was great. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you again next Thursday at 4 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share with friends, and send us your feedback at hello@rubbishtalk.co.uk.